With great power must also come, well, you know. In 2018, Insomniac Games gave the world Marvel's Spider-Man, a fantastic superhero game that let us live out our webhead fantasies like never before. The 2020 follow-up, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, cemented Insomniac's universe as one of the definitive Spider-Man adaptations. Insomniac Games now holds great power over Spidey fans everywhere, and I am delighted to say it seems that they have very responsibly delivered another absolute banger of an adventure. I was recently able to play through a few hours of Marvel Spider-Man 2, and it's absolutely everything you'd want it to be. It's not a complete reinvention of the formula, it doesn't need to be. It's essentially what God of War Ragnarok is to God of War, a sequel that refines, builds on, and greatly expands out on an incredibly solid original foundation. Unlike God of War Ragnarok, Marvel Spider-Man 2 has been built from the ground up for PlayStation 5 and will launch exclusively for the console. And honestly, you can tell. New York looks absolutely stunning, a metropolis packed with detail, bustling crowds, and deep orange sunsets that creep through the gaps between buildings and bounce playfully along sky-high towers of glass and metal. Everything feels much more expansive, yet simultaneously denser and full of life. Not that you ever really stopped taking the sights, mind you. Spidey moves through the city at a noticeably faster clip this time around, and has all the same traversal mechanics you remember from the first game. Muscle memory kicked in immediately, and it wasn't long before I was ping-ponging between the buildings, running along the face of skyscrapers, and plummeting down to the streets below before firing a last-minute webline, and feeling the rush of New York City traffic blow past. It's all just as satisfying as it was in 2018, and somehow manages to feel even smoother than before. A fun new addition to your movement through the city, web wings. I was a little concerned after seeing the trailers that this would detract from the web swinging somewhat, but it actually feeds into traversal in a rich, rewarding fashion, keeping momentum going where previous games saw you land underwhelmingly on the streets below. Now you can leap off your webs at the apex of a jump, bust out your wings and soar over those long gaps with no buildings or obvious areas to attach a web to. Among other things, this means you can cut straight across Central Park without getting a face full of tree. Oh my god, swinging across Central Park was literally the worst part of the first two games. I fundamentally don't understand anyone who chooses to fast travel in Marvel Spider-Man, and I think I will understand those people even less when Marvel Spider-Man 2 launches. Getting around is an absolute blast, and there is way more to do in the city this time around, from random crimes that need to be stopped to photo opportunities, collectibles and side missions that lead to much deeper stories than the last couple of games. Oh, and Peter has adopted Miles' app when it comes to finding and helping civilians, so it looks like Spider-Cop is very wisely a relic of the past. We're told with the addition of Queens and Brooklyn that this New York is roughly twice the size of the previous games. It's hard to really get a feel for that in a handful of hours, but it certainly feels more densely populated with things to do and see. Whether it can avoid feeling like an open world checklist remains to be seen, but that never really bothered me in either of the earlier games, since moving through the city between objectives and stopping every now and then to kick a bad guy in the face was just such a great time. Marvel Spider-Man 2 picks up 9 months after Miles Morales, and it's clear both Spider-Folk have their own baggage to deal with. Miles is beginning to struggle with juggling his dual lives, while Peter has picked up some fancy new alien threads that may or may not want to eat him. Spoiler, they do want to eat him. Yes, the symbiote makes its Insomniac debut. Its exact nature and exactly how Peter comes to find it weren't made clear in the preview, but it looks very much like we're going with mysterious black goo from a meteorite, which is always my favourite version of Venom. My preview picks up a few hours into the game, during which Peter is getting nice and cozy with the symbiotes and finds himself drawn into a deadly game with Kraven the Hunter's design. Kraven, it seems, has forced Dr. Connors to turn into the lizard, just so he has something challenging to hunt. And as an added wrinkle, Connors happens to be the only person with a chance of helping Harry Osborn, Peter's childhood friend who has returned from an unexplained prolonged absence with a mysterious illness. It's classic Spider-Man stakes, and even during the preview we can feel Peter losing himself to the symbiote as the situation grows more and more desperate. If it sticks a landing, this could very well be the best version of the classic Black Suit saga outside of the comics. Sorry, Spider-Man 3! As Peter threatens to tear the city apart on his own crusade, we found Miles continuing to help his community. Miles and Peter really have been given equal billing in this new adventure, and that's only fitting. The game's cover features both of them, and both are referred to as Spider-Man in the subtitles, with a little emoji denoting which Spidey is talking. A nice reminder to a certain subset of fans that Miles is and always will be Spider-Man. Crucially, Miles isn't simply a character that you're being made to play as, and you can switch between both Spider-Man at will for the vast majority of the adventure. There will of course be certain story missions and side activities that you can only do as Peter or Miles, but if you want to enjoy exploring the city as one specific Spidey, then you absolutely can. You can even switch between the two near instantly in a GTA 5 style character swapping system. In terms of combat, the basics are largely the same. Both Spider-Men can combine a series of web strikes, dodges and standard attacks as they leap and flip around the battlefield. I felt immediately at home stringing combos together, battering the crap out of bad guys before throwing them up in the air, bombarding them with a stream of webbing and then slamming them back down to earth for a satisfying splat. Environments play a larger role in the new game too. You can smash enemies through glass windows and stone pillars, and you can use your webs to grab and throw a much larger range of objects at foes. It's all just that little bit tighter, and a new parry ability really helps to pile up ridiculous combos and keep that momentum going. Boss fights and chase sequences also feel largely improved, without being completely different. Yes, there are still quick time sequences to be found in Marvel Spider-Man 2, but these scripted sequences feel so epic that it's hard to complain. When you're being dragged by the lizard up the side of a building while robot drones shoot at both of you, you're as in the moment as you possibly can be. And seamlessly switching between Spider-Man for these showdowns just opens up way more opportunities for exciting moments. At one stage I was playing as Miles chasing down a fleet of speedboats before the action leapt over to Peter for a scrap with a gun-toting helicopter. I can't quite say as much as far as bosses are concerned, as I was only privy to one quick scrap with the lizard, but based on that one experience, they're infinitely bigger, better and more challenging than they were in the previous two games. The best thing I can say about Marvel Spider-Man 2 is that I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I played last week. Our demo ended with an incredible cliffhanger, and all the pieces are in place for one of the most exciting and high-stakes Spider-Man stories of all time. In short, this is shaping up to be the perfect sequel, bigger, faster and altogether more spidery than its predecessors.